Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Candor with Pres Eve. I am delighted that you've joined us today, and I'm even more thrilled with our guest today. We have with us Senators Adam Hinds from the Berkshires and Senator Joe Comerford from right here in Northampton. Let's start with you, Senator Hinds. Tell us a little bit about your district and your tenure in the legislature.
First of all, thanks so much for having us. It's just been amazing to work with you and with Senator Comerford, and we have a lot of challenges, and it's wonderful when you know you have a good team rolling up our sleeves together. So thanks for that. So I cover the 52 westernmost towns and cities in Massachusetts, and so it starts right in Shelburne and covers the 9 western towns in Franklin County and the 9 western towns in Hampshire County, and goes all the way to New York and up to Vermont and down to Connecticut. And so it's also the district I grew up in, even though I ended up working overseas for a good 10 years with the United Nations. It came back, and it's been just an honor to really fight for the community I grew up in the region I love. And so excited to be here, and looking forward to a nice exchange this morning here today.
Great to have you with us. How about you, Senator Comerford? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, good morning. And I, like my great colleague, Senator Hinds, am really just so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Madam President, for your work and your leadership. You're rocking the region through your efforts at GCC and across the Commonwealth for higher ed, for public higher ed. And I'm really, really grateful. You heard me joke about this earlier, but I always say that I think I have a lot of towns until I hear what Adam Hinds has. And so the Hampshire Franklin Worcester District, which does start right in Northampton, is 24 cities and towns, the majority in Franklin County, but a good base in Hampshire County. I like to say that it winds up the Connecticut River to the Vermont and New Hampshire border, where it tees right to Royalston and left to Coleraine. It's an exquisite district. I think both Senator Hinds and I represent really some of the most beautiful areas in the entire Commonwealth. This is my second term in the legislature, and I'm really glad to go back in. It's a great delegation in Western Massachusetts. I feel like we're united for our people in all the right ways as we, lock arms. And it's often said that we have to punch above our weight because there's just not enough of us out here in Western Massachusetts. So as we fight for regional equity, we have to really do it together, which I believe we do.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have you both here, and we are so fortunate to live here, and we're even more lucky to have the two of you representing us. And I know from seeing you everywhere how many miles you're putting in your district. You are here, you're in Boston, you're just really advocating for us on the issues that matter most for our region. So thank you so much for your dedication, for your commitment. And I know that I speak for our board, for our trustees, for our students, our faculty, and our staff when I say that we are so fortunate to have your advocacy and your leadership. We really appreciate it. So let's dig into the questions. The legislature recently passed a climate and economic justice bill that was hailed as a significant victory. Can you give us a sense of the highlights of this bill and why it means so much to you? Senator Comerford, can we start with you?
Sure, absolutely. I think you're right that this next gen climate bill really is rather earth-shaking. It was a long time in the making. Our colleague in the Senate, Senator Barrett, really put his heart and soul into this. And of course, Senate leadership did as well. And I know our House colleagues also feel similarly invested. Our Western Mass region, and I think the delegation and constituents were part of the engine that drove this bill because there's just such a clear call from our people for a transformative climate bill. So this is pretty earth-shaking. It's not 100% renewable energy, which is where I know a lot of our people want to go, but it is a commitment on the part of the state to get to net zero, a net zero Commonwealth by 2050. And not only get there, but get there with these things called sublimits so that we can track our progress toward goals all the way along. And that's pretty seismic in terms of a commitment. It has a lot of different pieces to it, including a real investment in training So training the 21st century workforce, a real investment in environmental justice. So it intersects with racial justice. And then it has some very technical aspects of the bill, which include things like a net zero building construction, a stretch code, which I was pleased to be able to contribute to the bill. And actually that came from Amherst. The people of Amherst led the Commonwealth in that effort. So it's a great bill. It's part of what's needed. And now we have to, in this moment, really turbocharge the funding of it and the implementation of it through our efforts. And it's just the right time to do that, right? We're on the precipice of real change, real investment coming out of the COVID pandemic. And I think one of the places we should dig in is around making this bill real.
That's right. Climate change cannot wait. How about you, Senator Hines?
I completely agree. Massachusetts has lagged behind, quite honestly, in being the leader that we should be because we're out of time. And so some of the other exciting aspects to this is just being clear about where we're getting our energy and making sure that we're literally getting more of it from renewable sources, from clean energy. So that means our renewable portfolio standards, which is dictates how much of our energy comes from renewable sources, is increasing every year as a result of this bill. A frustrating part of our process when it came to pipelines and a range of other energy sources is working with the Department of Public Utilities. And so we changed their mandate and said, sure, you have to focus on system security and reliability and safety, but you also have to focus on reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, right? And equity, and affordability. And so we're really, I guess, lifting the hood on our systems and saying, what do we need to do differently? And that is a big piece. I would just add, out here, Senator Comerford and I were also really clear on carbon sequestration and making sure that that's a part of our strategy moving forward. I think what we've all realized is we're doing well in kind of reducing our emissions, but we also have to take carbon out of the atmosphere and reduce and kind of utilize our natural solutions. And so in Western Mass and Central Mass, we really have the ability to do that through our forests. And in other parts of the state, we've had senators resonate because it's also swamp beds and seabeds and swamplands. And so I'm happy that we're doing well in the energy space, but we have other areas where we need to do more. Transportation is on that list, but so is carbon sequestration. So this is another area where we start to tee up the next steps already through this bill.
That's wonderful to hear, and congratulations on this landmark bill. So this is about the time that the legislative session really starts to ramp up and we're approaching budget time. What are some of your remaining priorities budget-wise? Senator Hines, do you mind starting us off for that?
Sure. So this is an interesting moment in terms of the budget. You're right. I'm the chair of revenue, and so we've been really focused on what are the reforms we need to take on in our own system of revenue. And so we're finishing up basically a 2-year process of doing that. The problem is the ground has moved underneath us, right? So now all of a sudden we're still below our original budget levels from 2 years ago, but we have these major influx of federal assistance coming in. And so we're trying to navigate all of that in real time and understanding what to do with kind of these injections of revenue into different sectors as well, education being one. And so, that's one piece of it. When I look at my priorities for this 2-year term, one of the buckets is addressing income inequality. And so that means, what are we going to shift because of all that's been laid bare through this past year about vulnerabilities as a result of extreme income inequality? And in particular, when you have a shock to the system, the first who are impacted are those, in this case, making under $40,000 a year. They're the ones who are impacted the longest and probably going to be the last to fully recover, right? And so I think that means we need to be very clear, starting in this budget, but certainly in the couple of years ahead, in shifting our investments. And so that also means everything from getting the foundations right, from housing and a whole range of other issues, including training and supporting community colleges. And we can talk more about that shortly.
Sounds great. It's so nice to hear that that economic inequality is one of your priorities. MIT just released a study about a month ago that showed that in the last 40 years of high productivity and overall prosperity for our country, we've actually regressed in terms of income inequality. And we have people in the lowest quartiles really doing much worse than they were a half a century ago. So we certainly have some priorities there to
And on top
address.
of that, we know that that COVID has made that only worse. And
Exactly.
So, yeah, and
Exactly.
all the implications that come from that.
And it comes at a time when our country is getting more brown. So we really have to address that from an economic justice perspective, from, a prosperity perspective. What are your thoughts on that, Senator Comerford?
Well, I was just joining you. You saw me nodding my head, right? So the intersection with race and ethnicity is, of course, something that I know you both have top mind. So who is in that bottom quartile? Disproportionately people of color, disproportionately women. So, the legislature heard from Dr. Sandro Gallia. He's a wonderful public health visionary, I think. And he actually laid down a charge, which is what I'm taking into my budget meetings. And I love that we're having this conversation. He basically said, look, COVID exposed all these inequities. We knew they were there before this, but now they're there. It's like a big chasm, a painful chasm. Who got sicker earlier, who got worse in terms of being sick, and who died disproportionately. Poor people, people of color, who are struggling during this pandemic economically, low income, disproportionately low income communities, disproportionately communities of color, disproportionately rural communities that don't have a resilient enough economy. So he said, look, you have a choice to make. You can just write the next chapter right now, just put it on the shelf for the next pandemic. This is how it's going to go. Or you can invest, public investment, real meaningful investment in the social indicators of what makes us well, what makes our communities thrive. You can make that choice now, because if we do nothing, we just know that the next time we're hit with a crisis like this, it's going to feel the same. We're going to feel and carry the same inequities that we've felt and carried all along the COVID crisis. So for me, that for me is a sort of my own personal call to action, not unlike what Senator Hines was just saying in terms of economic inequality. I want to write the next chapter. I don't want to, put a book on the shelf that's going to be, the next crisis. This is what's going to look like. I want a new book. And so I would say that the new book I would write, and again, this comes from my lens of public health, but I would look at these social indicators of what generates economic stability, what generates public health. And I would think of things like major transformative investments, catch-up investments in K-12, early childcare, a big focus on local public health, which has been too long neglected in our communities. And then some significant infrastructure investment in things like transportation and affordable housing. So I'm excited to grapple with my colleagues.
I love that. And I want to continue with that theme of investment. And I want to talk about community colleges, because we know community colleges serve predominantly people of color. They serve predominantly low income, the rural populations. We are critical to the region, not just us here in rural Massachusetts, but also elsewhere in the state. What do you see as your agenda as it relates to community colleges, economic justice, and just overall prosperity of the state? What's on deck for you this legislative session and next year?
This is for Adam or Joe?
Whichever one, whomever would like
you
to
should
take.
go, Adam, because I think did I go first last time, or I can't remember.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's a conversation.
Go for it. You unmuted, so I want to hear what you have to say.
Oh, there you go. I love that we get to talk about community colleges and state colleges and state universities. I do think that it's imperative that we, at this moment, right, this precipice moment, that we talk about the real fact that over the last couple of decades, we have disinvested in public higher education by 31%. And that's a policy choice, right? We choose to not spend money, not renew a grant program, cut back a little bit here or there. But what that's done is it's really weakened one of the most critical infrastructures we have in the Commonwealth to not only protect us every day, but really actually get us out of this economic crisis, help us really come back from COVID, build back better than before from COVID. So as you say, President Solomon Fernandez, you're absolutely right? Just community colleges are the gateway for first-gen college goers, for kids of color, for kids from disproportionately poor communities, for kids coming out of the foster care system, right? Gateway to opportunity, gateway to a new future that they can make after they attend, places like GCC. So my budget asks, to bridge back to what we were talking about, are really loaded with this kind of double down reinvestment in the public higher ed sector, line by line, starting with grant programs that will help first-gen kids. And I know you know this because that's what GCC does so beautifully. But not only that, right? Capital improvements. That's another area where we've really lagged behind, and actually we've lagged back behind, nationwide comparisons in terms of our ability to invest in the infrastructure of public higher education, not only its people and its faculty and staff and students. So I'm interested in infrastructure investment so that places can really build up in this 21st century training programs and help kids get a ladder into their future that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Beautifully said, and we look forward to that. How about you, Senator Hinds? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, and the other context of this is a college affordability crisis, right? And to have a gateway to college credits, to having access, it's, for me and a lot of my friends, it came through GCC, right? Folks coming over the mountain and starting that process, even while still in high school and taking classes. And it was that accessibility that just really is a game changer. And, the problem is we're still seeing major gaps. And so the accessibility for students of color and families of color, and it's just, the community colleges play a critical role in our Commonwealth. And there's no overstating that. And so I think that's where, and maybe we can talk about this moment too, about what's shifting in our economy and how do the community colleges play that role. It's absolutely, in the coming years, it's going to be more important than ever as we're seeing major shifts and the need for folks to have ability to retrain or to gain skills and doing so in an accessible way. So, man, oh man, we've got your back. You just tell us what you need and we'll fight for it.
Well, I'll tell you right now, we have this dual mission of reorienting ourselves towards being more skills-based for the folks who are unemployed, and the jobs are changing. The future of work is here. It is staring us in the face. And so how do we help them get new skills to be able to get these new jobs that are coming out? Because some of the pre-COVID jobs are gone. They're gone forever. And at the same time, we also have to renew our commitment to the liberal arts, because we know that's what gives people career mobility, and it's also what gives people career longevity. So being able to have these two, to deliver on these two missions that sometimes appear contradictory, that's a real issue. I have a follow-up for you, Senator Hinds. You're on the new committee, that's tasked with reimagining resiliency throughout the state post-COVID. What can we glean from your work that might be applicable to GCC and other community colleges throughout the state?
Great.
Or more broadly too, beyond community colleges, more broadly also.
Yeah, sure. So interestingly, this is a new Senate committee. The Senate president said we need to really kind of prepare ourselves for, addressing the vulnerabilities that have been, underscored and highlighted already there, obviously, and understanding what the steps are that we need to take, as we've been talking about this entire conversation, to be more resilient, to turn the page and shift the script, because the committee is called Reimagining Massachusetts Post-COVID Resiliency, and we start next week with our first. It'll be the first week of April, the first hearing or listening session, and we're going to have a pretty quick pace after that. And so we're lifting up the hood and saying, guess what? 2019 wasn't great either from a vulnerability perspective, from an equity perspective. And then during 2020, we just saw off the charts that there were clear disparate outcomes in health, in economic impact, by income, by race, and in geography. And so what we're trying to do is say, what can the Commonwealth do to address those inequities and vulnerabilities on the one hand? And then on the other hand is, well, we've also seen this massive acceleration in trends that were already in place. And you just said it with the future of work. I mean, we had this migration in labor taking place before COVID, where we're kind of moving towards employers are more and more focused on technology skills and product development and services. And now pre-COVID again, we are hearing, across the country, 30 to 35 million jobs would be lost nationally. And so what are we doing in that shift? And so we're going to try and look at how is the economy in Massachusetts shifting, and what does that mean about future work and training and skills? And so that's precisely where community college will come in. And there are so many layers to this: the digital divide, the structure of the economy, the implications for transportation and housing if we stay in a remote posture, and on and on and on. And so I'm honored to be doing this work. It feels like a key part of how we build back stronger and not just recover. We have to make major changes, and this will be a part of that.
Yeah, we are increasingly a knowledge-driven economy in Massachusetts. And so people need to have the skills, and we also are in a tight labor market. So there's high demand and not enough people to fill those jobs. So the quicker we can get them to acquire those skills, the better it is for the overall prosperity of the state. So this has been such a wonderful conversation, and I could talk to both of you for days. I look forward to having you back on campus and having more of these meaningful conversations when we're back in person. I have just one last question to wrap us up, and you've been such ardent advocates for our region, and I'm curious about your long-term goals and priorities for Western Mass. Senator Comerford, can we start with you?
Sure, absolutely. And actually some of it ties with to just what Senator Hinds was saying. And I love Adam that you're doing this work. I think it's so exciting. And I just want to say, President Solomon Fernandez, your leadership of GCC, is incredibly synergistic with what Senator Hinds was just talking about, right? You were thinking about the future of work before COVID hit. So, the way that you're getting really skills-based and technical is really hand in hand with the climate bill. And the way that you're looking to really expand careers in healthcare across the entire continuum, same thing, right? It's the new way of public wellness coming out of COVID. So I feel like I'm just so grateful that you're positioning GCC at the front of the wave of this kind of rebuilding back better, as we're talking about. So super quickly, some of my goals, in terms of my time in the near future in the legislature, Eve better than I do, that I'd like to see a sim lab and an expansion on GCC's campus for the kind of careers that you envision for our region in healthcare.
We'll have a whole session on that, by the way.
That's a whole session.
Yes.
That is like top of my personal list to help see through with my colleagues. Also with Senator Hinds, we've been really investing in the possibility of Route 2 rail. So restarting passenger rail along Route 2, as another way to bring opportunity, to bring economic development to our region, to help connect us to Boston. And then, of course, that ties into the north-south line. Of course, like with Senator Hinds, again, I want real investment in our schools and a special attention to rural schools that I think, and low and declining enrollment schools, which are, a hair of a different color, but still needs that kind of investment. And then I do have an agenda, again, in partnership with Senator Hinds, around sequestration and really protecting our open lands in a way and remunerating our communities for doing that as part of both an economic justice and regional equity issue, but also as a climate solution. And that goes along with our farmers. We have hundreds of farmers in our economy here, and they're the base of our economy. And I do think that we could do a lot better for them, as well as a lot better for our small towns in terms of the kind of Chapter 90 money, which is the road and bridges money, and the flexibility we need to give communities, and some of the other grants coming home to our main streets. So I'll stop there, but it's exciting to do this work, and it's really exciting to have partners like Adam.
That is an ambitious agenda, and certainly what we need. Right on point. Thank you so much. We appreciate your leadership. And you, Adam, to close us, what are you thinking? What are your priorities?
Yeah, everything that Senator Comerford just said. We just
ditto.
It's not surprising. Our goals and our agenda are really in lockstep. And I guess maybe I'll just hammer home one point, which is here we are, there is an opportunity from what we've learned through COVID, right? And the remote work does provide an opportunity for our region in the sense that suddenly if you're sitting in a place with high-speed internet, you can apply for jobs anywhere in the world. And now that the culture of remote work is kind of sinking in, and a lot of the surveys indicate that a lot of, a good portion of employers that are in the type of industry that can allow it might keep a good chunk of employees in a remote posture, at least a hybrid. But you need the basic infrastructure to do that. You need that train to zoom into Boston once or twice a week. You need the internet. It's not just a rural thing. We've been hit over the head that it's a downtown issue too, when the number of kids who didn't have access to the internet or hardware is really just kind of been exposed. And so the digital divide is real, and everyone's waking up to it. It's not just us out here. And then the other piece for us is just those fundamentals, right? Do we have the best education possible for our kids and for the region? That's going to mean not only are our students ready, but people are going to want to live here and move here, take advantage of that remote work kind of possibility. Economically, I think you also know I love the outdoors. I love outdoor rec, and we have several gems in West County related to kind of Berkshire East and kind of a burgeoning kind of center of gravity for outdoor recreation that's accessible. And so we're really doing a lot of work to try to drill into that and give the support they need so that we can continue to draw people and grow an industry in West County as well. So that's been a priority alongside all of these.
I love the recreation economy here. It's one of the most beautiful, most interesting things about Western Mass, and my friends in Eastern Mass. I spent 25 years living in Eastern Mass, and we tell our friends, come here, come enjoy it. It's nothing. There's nothing better than the outdoors. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. This was really, really wonderful. And I've enjoyed speaking with you as I always do. And I'm glad that our listeners and our viewers also got a chance to hear from you in a way that was really authentic and engaging in this back and forth conversation and hearing what you've been working on. You've been working so hard on our behalf, and also what you have on the horizon for us. So thank you so much. You have our admiration and our support, and please don't hesitate to call on us. Thanks again, and thank you everyone for joining us today.